Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming today to celebrate Joseph Shearouse Sr.'s retirement from the city of Savannah. As many of you may know or may not, I'm Joseph Shearouse Jr., or to my colleagues, J. Shearouse 01 at savannahga.gov. Today is a celebration of my father going into retirement, but it's also a great end to the countless amount of emails, voice messages, and interoffice mail that I would inappropriately receive that was meant for him and would come to me. So I look forward to receiving the right stuff from here on out. Before we get started, I'd like to just fill you in on a couple things about my dad that you may not be aware of. First off, he's one of two children. His brother, Bill Shearouse, is here as well. He was the son to my grandmother, Bootsy, and Bill Shearouse as well. One funny fact, they actually, during the war, my grandfather was stationed in Germany. They lived over there for a while. And they spoke a little German. Grew up in Germany and spoke a little German. Now, if you ask him to speak any now, he can't do a lick of it. Lost it all. But at one time, he could speak 2 languages, which is impressive. He attended the University of Georgia on a full athletic scholarship. He ran track there. But you know, he didn't just run track. He won championships, as a matter of fact. He'll never tell you this. He didn't even tell me it until later on in life. He's won 6 SEC championships while I was at the University of Georgia. He was the 1973 Athlete of the Year at the University of Georgia. That's all sports. That's football, every single sport. I didn't know that until I was 20 years old at a function that he was the 1973 Athlete of the Year. I mean, he just, it goes back to who he is. Very modest, doesn't tell you these things. He also was on his way to the Olympics. I don't know if any of you have heard this story. He was one of the top track runners in the nation. And many saw him going to the 1972 Olympics, Dad? Or 76? 72 Olympics. He was one of the 10 fastest people in the country, and he tripped and fell during the qualifying race. Ask him the details about that later. He also taught at public school. He was born and raised here in Savannah, and he taught at the public schools here in Savannah, which I'll comment on a little further on, which I think has built some of the great attributes that he has now. I wouldn't call him a handyman around the house. Now, he does keep his yard perfectly manicured. And I'll also say he maintains the tree lawn in front of the house per city ordinance. Professionally, I'm not going to comment on a lot of stuff at this moment. I'll leave that to some of our next speakers. But he's a rare breed. He's been a member of the City of Savannah's organization under 5 different city managers, 6 different mayors, almost 4 decades of the life of this organization, which is quite an accomplishment to do. He's a true servant, not just a public servant, but he's a family servant. He's a servant to his church, and he's obviously today we're here to celebrate a servant to his community. And he's an amazing father and family man. So let's get this started before I keep talking about him. We're going to start off with a welcome from the city manager, Rob Hernandez.
Well, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to be here with all of you this afternoon to honor Joe upon his retirement. First, let me say hello and recognize members of the City Council with our Mayor, Mayor Deloach, and Council Member Shabazz. It's important that we get this party started right. So give me just 1 second, I've got to do something here. So So Joe Jr. mentioned that Joe's been here through 5 city managers and 6 mayors, and it took the city manager from Florida to finally get rid of him, right? All right. And I really think that that's why he decided to retire. He said, he met me, and even though I didn't go to the University of Florida, he figured, okay, this guy's from Florida, I got to get out of here. So, Joe, thanks for letting me poke fun of you for just a little bit. And let me just say this, that as your new city manager, I've had the privilege of meeting Joe, but I haven't known him very long. But it didn't take me all but a minute to realize that Joe is a consummate professional and really cares deeply about, first and foremost, the city of Savannah, his family, but most importantly, all of you in leisure services. And that was very, very evident. And he cares deeply about the folks that he considers to be his extended family. And like I said before, that was evident from 20 minutes of meeting and getting to know him. So, Joe he was a loyal employee for the city of Savannah, a compassionate and strong leader, a community advocate, and a person of great faith. And Joe wanted me to mention a frustrated Georgia Bulldog fan. He's the kind of person, the kind of professional that I certainly want on my team, and I'm deeply disappointed. I'm happy for him, don't get me wrong. I'm happy that he's retiring and he's going to enjoy the next chapter of his life, and I wish him the best of luck, and good for you, and I wish that I was there retiring with you. But I'm also saddened because I really wanted to get to know him better, and I needed people of his caliber to be part of my team, because folks like him are very hard to find. So I know that it's going to be a big void for the city of Savannah, and it's going to be very big shoes to have to fill. And so, again, I'm deeply disappointed that he's leaving, but very happy for him at the same time. So you know that Joe has given tirelessly during his career here in the city of Savannah. I know he spent 28 years as bureau chief, and that is a phenomenal run. But it's time for him to devote his energy and his time, and he's going to enjoy his family now. He's going to enjoy being with his grandchildren, and he's going to enjoy being with his wife Celeste, and good for him. Throughout his career, Joe served as a teacher and as a dedicated public servant, and he has given back to the community immeasurably. He has touched the lives of those that he has worked with, and he has touched the lives of many athletes who have had the pleasure and privilege to play under his leadership. We all recognize that what sets a city apart from others is the quality of life citizens enjoy. Joe and all of you, the members of his team, have worked hard to make sure that our citizens receive exceptional cultural, athletic, youth, and senior services. A few highlights of those services include the successful Savannah Bananas, and I understand Joe played a major role in bringing the bananas to the city. Joe was involved with the restoration of the Coffee Bluff Marina. He's been involved in the planning and design of the new Cultural Arts Center that's going up right across the street. And most importantly, he has been passionate about his involvement in the community centers that are in our neighborhoods and that provide services to our youth and our seniors. Joe, your work has left an indelible mark on the city of Savannah and this community. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire city of Savannah family for your service, your leadership, your wisdom, and your example as a true public servant. Thank you, Joe, and best of luck.
Thank you, Rob, for those comments. So next up, we have, I believe, the longest boss he's had, or the longest city manager he worked under, a former city manager, Michael Brown.
Good afternoon. I think Joe and I both know that we're the primary obstacle between you and barbecue, so we need to, I will not repeat. Rob, first and foremost, best of luck, and secondly, I appreciate you being straight up about Joe. Even though you haven't been here, you've quickly come to see Joe's skills. I'm not going to repeat, but I will reaffirm Joe's connection to family and his extended family. Celeste, his 3 daughters, Joey, his brother Bill. Joe has always been about family. Secondly, are his coworkers. And let's just get it straight. He's not just the director of leisure services, if that's what they call you now. Joe has always done whatever it took, whatever that task was. So everybody here is a coworker, and in this environment, which is so difficult, his coworkers, I think, always, he strived to take care of them and give them what they needed, and they strive to do the absolute best that they could for Joe. So every one of you that's here, in leisure services or not, I commend you and I celebrate with you. Just so that I won't forget, because I forget just about everything, especially that which I want to forget. Joe started out as a runner. And Joe, you thought you were going to be a sprinter, and it turned out to be a marathon, didn't it? But you did a wonderful job. And you are an old timer, and that's a good thing. I think Joe, probably the mayor and our alderman, they have this vision, I think. I do, because I came here in 1980, where we can remember what it was like, we can see what it is like, and then I think you can see what it could be. And Joe was truly a person, and to this day, that can see what this community is. And all the people that came before him as well. Acknowledge John Tidwell, who I don't think is here today, Jimmy Blackburn, people like Brooke Stillwell. There were all kinds of folks who we worked with, and they saw what we could be. And they didn't let up on that every day. And Joe Damandanza. So Johnny Rusakis. So those were folks who weathered this. And Joe, when we first came, there was no internet, there was no email, there was no computer on your desk, and thank God there was no Twitter. But today, it's a new world, and I guess Joe, I've never been on it, but I guess Joe even has his own wonderful Facebook account, right, Joe? In all seriousness, everywhere we go nowadays, somebody says something wonderful about Savannah, right? Doesn't matter if you're wherever you are here and across the country. Literally a few weeks ago, Linda and I were in Chippewa Square having a cup of coffee, and a lady came up to us and said, "Are you from Savannah?" We said, "Well, yeah." She goes, "You mean like you're really from Savannah?" We said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, isn't it wonderful to live here? Wouldn't that be amazing?" I said, "Well, you know what? It really is amazing." But we think back as to what it took to bring us here. And now there's folks that debate, well, yeah, it was the ladies, mostly ladies at Historic Savannah. It was Johnny Rusakis. It was SCAD. It was John Barrett. And yeah, it was even Lady Chablis. I don't know if you beat Lady Chablis, Joe, but you were and are. Anything that you see here, Joe was involved with that. Whether you see something that got built or something that got improved, Joe was involved in that process every step of the way. In fact, I would say this, as a manager, it's ironic that I'm talking. This is longer than Joe and I ever talked. I never had to talk to Joe, and he never had to talk to me. If he needed something, I knew he only called me because he needed it, and if I needed something, I would call Joe, and he would take care of it. So we didn't have to do a lot of talking. He just knew how to do it. I'll tell you one anecdote. You got to do a few of these. There's a wonderful resource in Chatham County called the Savannah and Ogeechee Canal. It goes all the way from Yamacraw to the Ogeechee River. We don't just that's just not a ditch out there. We own it in what's called fee simple. But I found out these folks were building culverts across it. And I said, you put a stop to that. Well, that of course made them very upset. So somehow or another, Joe had to go to a meeting out at, of all places, Scottsdale Park. I still don't know where that is and why I would have to pay for it. But at any rate, we go to the meeting, and there's this little room. It must have had 50 people in it, and it must have been 120 degrees. So I get there late, as always, and I can see Joe and I think Michael Kegler. And both of them look like they're about ready to get beat up. But I can't see the people, and they can't see me. So as soon as I come in the door, Joe has this look on his face like your baseball coach, which is go back to the dugout and go back to the clubhouse. Just leave. And so that's exactly what I did. And later on, I didn't ever hear any more about it. I said, how did it go? He said, it came out fine. So that's Joe. He just knew how to take, and also, he still appreciated every single thing about how important that resource is, yet he was able to figure that out. So Joe, your many talents have helped us in so many ways. I think there are some folks who, Joe has connections to everybody in this community. I don't care if it's football, cheerleading, cultural arts, he has connections to everybody, and they care about him and they will work with him. I will tell you one other anecdote. A few years ago on a Sunday morning, Joe would never call me on a Sunday morning. He said, Michael, last night a lady was coming up Drayton Street, a little drunk and driving way too fast, and she smashed into the lion fountain and knocked the lion all down. I said, what? How did she do that? He said, well, we think she hit the curb, went airborne, and hit a direct hit on the lion fountain. I said, well, I'm not sure how that could happen, but then he said, well, I just wanted you to know. Well, I said to myself, something came in my head. I said, you know what? We got to pick up all those pieces. So I said, Joe, go pick up all those pieces. Now, the typical department head would go, are you crazy? But Joe didn't say, are you crazy? He said, okay. So about 4 months later, Joe called me and he said, we found a company, they're going to rebuild the lion, and the only reason they can do that is because we picked up all those pieces, and now they can build a new one. So to me, it's the kind of thing where once Joe knew something had to be done, he just got it done, okay? That's the kind of person that he was. And I'll go ahead and get toward the end. About 2 months ago, Linda drove me down to Coffee Bluff Marina. And I got on the phone and I called Joe and I said, Joe, I just want you to know what a great job that you did. Because most of you don't know the history down there. That thing is the biggest legal mess you ever saw. Everybody has this right, or they think they have that right. And so I said, Joe, this is a wonderful facility. And he said, well, I'd really rather you didn't talk about it. I said, well, yeah, I'm just telling you all that this city does good things. At the moment you do them, you're going to have your gripers and your snipers and your whatever and your whatever. But 5 and 10 years later, as Dan knows, those will be forgotten. But we will not forget what Joe did. And not just by himself, but he truly was a coach, he was a leader, and he did so many, and you did, Joe. You got to get credit. And finally, I'm going to give you, after the ceremony, a little special card. And when you see something, when you're driving around, you can get that card and you can call the city. It's called 311. And they'll put you at the end of the line, just like me. So you're going to have to train yourself when you drive around Savannah. You go like, you know, it really shouldn't be like that. You just pick up the phone and dial 311, and then they'll put in your work order and give you the number, and it'll probably get fixed. But in the end, we all appreciate you, Joe. And the only other thing is, if you really feel like it, I'll take you to lunch over at Yaya's and buy you a piece of baklava. All the best. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. You know, for any of you who've had the pleasure of riding in my dad's city vehicle, if you just take a glance in the back seat, you'll notice that the vehicle is pretty dirty. and it's covered with tools, a litter stick, a clipper, gloves. All these tools are in his back seat. And when you first see it, you're probably wondering, why does this bureau chief have all these tools in his back seat? And you'll quickly learn as you ride with him that because he sees things as he drives around town. And instead of calling 311, he pulls over the car, and he does it himself. Many times he'll pull over the car and get his clippers out and clip a particular bush because he felt like it wasn't shaped right, or it might have been blocking the view of a stop sign. Or he'll grab his litter stick and start picking up litter. I'll have to stop him and say, Dad, we got somewhere we got to be. You got to stop picking up all this litter. I only bring this up because many times we hear the phrase, don't ever ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. But he would literally live that motto when you just ride around the car with him. Now, one of his biggest pet peeves, and I think he got this from Mr. Brown, was signs in the public right-of-way. My Lord. He would swing his car over, rip the sign out of the public right-of-way, throw it in his back, and he'd say, the public owns this land, not Harry's pressure washer. And he'd throw them back in there. So if you ever see any signs in the public right-of-way, go ahead and take it out of there for him. He gets aggravated with that. But I did want to make a couple of other remarks about him from a personal nature. I mentioned earlier that he really is a servant. And his service is really built on compassion for others. You know, he has this great ability to have and see compassion and belief in people. And, you know, I would circle back to that and ask myself, what's made him successful? What has made my father successful at what he does? And that would lead me to ask, well, what is Leisure Services? You know, many of us know, but some of us may not. You know, Leisure Services has been a constantly changing bureau. Almost every department at one time has been within Leisure Services. They've had design and construction, building and grounds, cemeteries, park and tree. I don't want to try to name them all because there's too many. And many times they'd come in under his purview with issues, and those issues would come resolved. So it leads me back to, how did he solve these problems? He's not an expert on contract negotiation. He's not an expert on horticulture. He's not an expert on a variety of different things. But what he is an expert on is people. He knows how to motivate and inspire, and most of all, support people. So you can throw different challenges of different magnitudes of areas that he has no expertise in, and yet he inspires, motivates, and supports people who have that expertise, and he accomplishes the tasks that are before him. So what better trait to have in a manager, or a father for that matter, than to be such a phenomenal motivator, inspirational individual, and supporter of helping each person become the best version of themselves. So personally, I'd like to wish him a good retirement. And we're at a part in the ceremony where anyone who would like to make some comments, city staff or anyone else in the audience, we have a situation for you to come up and say what you'd like. I'd also like to recognize Alderman Van Johnston, who just arrived as well. So other remarks that would like to be made, I think Mama Bill will be the first to come up.
Thank you, Joe. I know this is going to surprise everybody, but because he looks so much older than me, Joey's my little brother. And you know, like all little brothers, when we were growing up, wherever I would go, I'd turn around, he'd be following me. So when Mr. Blackburn hired me in 1974 to be his assistant city attorney, it didn't surprise me that a few years later, here comes Joey to work for the city for John Tidwell at Leisure Services. Not long after, I learned that he was traveling the road every night, going to Georgia Southern to work on his master's degree. I said, Joey, why do you need another degree? And he said, because one day I want Mr. Tidwell's job. And of course he did. He's probably the only person I know that is lucky enough or fortunate enough to have the only job he ever wanted. He wanted to lead leisure services, and he did it so well for so many years. And Mr. City Manager, you already had a tough job, but he's made it worse because now you got to find somebody to take his place. So Joey, congratulations.
As many of you know, Joe hired me to be the Civic Center director 14, almost 15 years ago. Well, my first mistake was he said to me, listen, they're going to talk about building an arena, but don't worry, it won't happen in your career, it won't happen in mine, nothing will happen. Probably 5 months later, Mr. Brown called me up and said, we're going to put money in SPLOST for a new arena, so you and Joe come on down here and let's talk about where we're going to put it. So that was my first foray into building a new arena. However, I have to say, being the smart man that Joe is, he knew it wasn't going to get built in his career, which it hasn't. Probably it will not get built in my career, I'm pretty sure of that, because I'm not far behind him. But we did finally get an arena, on the books and ready to go, and that's one of Joe's many, many accomplishments. I would like to tell one other story very quickly, and then that will give you some idea of how Joseph said he didn't have a lot of talents, but he didn't have expertise in everything, but he was always there for you. Not long after I took the job as the Civic Center director, the then mayor, Floyd Adams, was having a meeting over here. It was after hours, and there was the off-duty police officer and myself were the only staff people here. And Mayor Adams comes down and says, "What's your name again?" And I said, "Marty." And he said, "Mary, there's no bar upstairs. Where is the bar?" And I was really very new to this, and so I thought, bar? This is a government meeting. What? Bar. And so I quickly called Joe on the phone, and Joe said, "Well, you have the key to the liquor closet, right?" I didn't even know I had a key to the liquor closet. Honestly, I had this big clunk of keys, and I wasn't sure at all, what the keys were for. And I said, "Well, I'm sure I probably do." And he said, "Well, have you ever bartended?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, this will be your first experience. Have fun." And I thought surely he would come over and at least help me bartend. But no, he just left Mayor Adams and I to figure it out. So that's when I learned it was going to be a wild ride for the Civic Center. I will say this, y'all. I've known Joe way longer than my time here in Savannah. His family is very close friends of mine. In college, I knew Joe and have watched him with his family throughout the years. And I will tell you, there's nobody more devoted to his children, his wife, his grandbabies. If you watch him, he keeps looking at the grandbaby over there. But the other thing that is so impressive is how he treated his staff. You all may not know this, those of you that work for Leisure Services, but Joe is probably the only bureau chief that consistently, every quarter, brought everybody together. And, he did all the Georgia Bulldog things and told us some dumb jokes and waved $3, had Pearson wave $3 to say the mission statement of Leisure Services or whatever. But it was really important to Joe that his team got together quarterly to communicate, have a cup of coffee in the morning, for him to be able to recognize staff that had done great things. You people in Leisure Services don't realize how lucky you are to have had that. Not every bureau chief does that. Not every director does that, not only in the city but anywhere. Joe put you all first. And I think it's going to be a great loss for all of us not to have it. I think his legacy will be if all of you go out there and treat people the way Joe treated you, and we will have a great city. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Estella Shabazz, and I have bragging rights. I tell my colleagues on city council I am the only one who have this bragging right. And that was back in 1986 when I was hired as an employee in the engineering department as a civil engineer for the city. And during that time, the engineers there, we were given different bureaus that we oversaw the engineering projects over, and leisure services was mine. And therefore, with that, given that assignment, I was given Mr. Shearouse, and I call him Mr. Shearouse now. And I just want to say that this year made 30 years for us knowing each other, and I brag about that because he has been, like everyone has said up here, he has been consistent. And I know for my own self that he has been consistent for 30 years and being an excellent person to work with. And now that I'm on this side of the seat of the city, it has continued. And you know, I walked up the stairs a few seconds ago because I was one of those ones who was pulling and yagging and saying, no, you cannot retire. I have too many things that I need to get finished, and so you cannot leave. So when I walked up the stairs over that side, I don't know if it's on that side, I saw the reason why. And it all became full circle for me why he's retiring. And then when I got to this point and I actually saw the baby and I touched the baby, then I said, yes, you can go home now. Congratulations, Mr. Shearouse. It was a pleasure for over 30 years working with you.
All right, thank you, everybody. I know everyone's anxious to eat. We've just got a few more things. The presentation of the gift from Barry Baker, the Director of Parks and Recreation.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone, and I'd just like to say that of all the wonderful things I've heard about Joe, I must say I've worked with him for over 28 years, and I definitely want to thank you for the opportunity and the support that you've shown me over my career. And I do want to tell one story I haven't heard, and this happened back during City Manager Mendonza's time. Me and Joe were meeting with him on some youth initiatives, and we were not getting anywhere. So finally, Joe decided to throw a Hail Mary, and we were talking about the trends of youth, and at that time, rap music was really, coming on strong for youth. So what Joe decided to do was rap for the city manager so he would get a better understanding. That was a special moment. But on behalf of the Leisure Services employees, we have a gift for you, Joe. And what we thought would be fitting, as you have grown over the years and now you are definitely a high-tech manager. So we wanted to get something that you will be able to continue that. So I want to present these to you, and I know that as you have shown us that you can communicate very well using this, we want you to be able to continue to do that. So we want you to open it.
All right, we're getting close. Oh, we're opening them up here. Here we go. We got an iPad. do we have there? And the Slim Book, he'll have to figure out what that is. That's right, that's right. He can type on the screen. There you go. All right, so we're getting close, so everyone hold off. We'll be all right in just a second. We've got 2 more things, blessing of the food and remarks from my dad. So Dad, when you get a second, you're up next for a few remarks.
Thank you. Well, first, this is a little overwhelming and frankly, I feel like undeserved, but I do appreciate so many of you coming out, and especially my co-workers and friends and family. And Lucy, hey, sweetie. I'm not big and listen to the radio very much, especially music, but I did hear a song a couple of weeks ago, and I said, that's me. And I'm going to paraphrase, because what it says, something to the effect of, Lord, what did I ever do to deserve, in my case, so much that I've gotten? And I really am sincere about that. What did I do to deserve as much as has been given to me? And it started with my brother and our parents. I mean, I had these unbelievable loving parents that kept us on the right track and educated by the Sisters of Mercy and then the Benedictine monks. And then in my career, even in high school, I had 2 unbelievable coaches. We were honored one of them recently, Floyd Morris, who just was so inspirational. And my coach at Benedictine, Big Mel, that made or introduced me to really wanting to do things to make the lives of young people better. So I went into education, and for some reason, God, what did I ever do to get Raleigh Bryant as a principal? Because for some reason, Raleigh Bryant took me underneath his wings, and I don't know why, but he mentored me and advised me what I needed to do to be a better teacher and a better person. And my career with the city, when we were at a Super Bowl party in 1975, I guess. When did I start with the city? Anyway, Super Bowl party, someone says there's an opening in the city, and I just randomly applied for a job as athletics administrator. And I started that June because I decided education, I thought if I became a principal I could change the world. I learned real quick that I admire teachers. I digress a minute, but teachers, they do an unbelievable job and they're underappreciated. So I get Raleigh Bryant as a principal, and he guides me, and I learned after about 6 years this is not what I wanted to do, and then got the job as an athletics administrator for the city, like I said. I came home the first day and said to Celeste, I can't believe they paid me to do this. It was such an enjoyable job to work with so many good people. And then in the 2nd grade, I don't know that I knew, but deep down inside, Celeste Coleman, I knew I wanted her to be my wife. And then, that kind of was dormant for a long time. And then fortunately, after we both went to college, somehow we came back together, and she had a choice of marrying me or going on, what was it called, the Good Ship Hope for some year-long tour. And fortunately, God, why did I deserve that? But Celeste Coleman married me and gave me 4 unbelievable children. And again, what did I do to deserve that? Then continuing my career at the city, I got these unbelievable city managers. And, starting with Don Mendonza. And y'all heard lots of stories about him, but what I learned from Don Mendonza is the most important thing we can do is provide for those who don't have. And sometimes you don't always think that way. To go into neighborhoods and the first thing you would ask, well, what's in that neighborhood? And, we'd say, well, not much. Well, that's where we need to go. But then you go someplace else and say, well, come on. Put some more facilities here. Well, let's go take care of the ones that don't have before we take care of the ones that have. So, and that was so inspirational and such a good philosophy. Now, I don't want to say too much about Michael because he's here. You go to see Michael to talk about one topic, and you talk about that for about 2 minutes, and an hour later, you got 4 or 5 other different things you need to go do. But again, his passion for service, and that's what it was about, service, and making sure that we're being good stewards of what we're doing, and we're providing those needed, and that's the key word, the needed services to the folks who don't have, and to make this a better city. And that really helped me in my career. And then the people I work with, and I emphasize worked with, across the city. And at some point, Mr. City Manager, my vision is we don't have departments. Who do you work for? Well, I don't work for Legal Services, I work for the City of Savannah. Because that's who we are, we're the City of Savannah. And everything is our job. I know a new city manager who I'm disappointed I won't be able to work for him, with him, because I think he's going to do wonderful things for the city once he gets over this Florida thing. You notice it wouldn't attach. I was glad to hear your education wasn't from there. That would have worried me. Especially knowing how many aldermen are Georgia supporters. You better start counting votes. But the people I've worked with and have done so much, and my job was just to let them do their job and get out of the way, and I got the credit for it. It was kind of a wonderful thing. And many are here, and I don't want to go through recognizing all of them, but Lewis Hodges did so much for this city. Now, Lewis was a grumpy old man, and he'd complain about it. And then he'd come back an hour ago and he says, I'm sorry I acted that way, but he'd already taken care of the problem. All you had to do was just mention it to Lewis, or like I said, let him complain and grump, and you know, it's one of our favorite things, Ron, and it still exists today. You know, Lewis was in charge of buildings and grounds, so he maintained all the athletic facilities, so they would look beautiful. And then there was a former park and tree director, and the squares were awful. So the city's solution was to give Park and Tree more resources. And Lewis says, well, I guess I just need to let our facilities go to hell, so they'll give me some more resources. But that's how it was. Lewis would get it done with what he had. So I was very fortunate to have so many people who I did my best to get them the resources they need. And just got out of their way, and basically they heard us 100 times. Thank you for making me look good. So, again, God, I don't know what I ever did to have what I've received. I hope I've done the best I can with those talents. And all of you that have helped me over these many years, because it's taken all of you from every department. Like I say, it's all you city employees, past and present, and friends. A good friend there, Tommy Miller, Paul Memalakis. Again, I should have started naming people. But we all worked as a team, and that's what was important. And if there's anything I can ever do to help anyone, Savannah's my home, always will be. I love the city, and I'm available to pick up trash, cut grass, whatever I need to do. But again, thank everyone for their comments. And, enough has been said, so let's move on. Thank you.
All right, now we'll have the blessing of the food from Bishop Emeritus of the Diocese of Savannah, Bishop Alderman.
Mayor Deloach, City Manager Joey. It's usually the preacher preaches too long. So what I say will be short and prayerful. But as I was thinking what prayer I would say, I decided to avoid the Hail Mary, because Tennessee did all the damage there. But I also stand here very privileged to have known Celeste and Joey for over 40 years. I was pastor of Blessed Sacrament, and I had the immense privilege of presiding at their wedding almost 41 years ago. And what a blessing that was for them, but also for all of us. And so I take that occasion to congratulate them on that occasion. Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless the food of which we are about to partake. Food is a gift to all of us. May we use it well. There are many who do not have food. Help us to keep them in our prayers and to be socially responsible in helping them to have food, like we shall share here this afternoon. Food is God's gift. We are a gift to each other. May that giftedness pervade all of our lives, and may we never forget those in want, because it is in our comings and our goings that we understand and appreciate God's love for each one of us. And we ask that love to be upon Joey and Celeste and their family on this day, this special day in their lives. This we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right, thank you, Bishop Boland. So we've got food set up on the left and the right. We're going to ask that the head table and the family go first on the left, and you can go ahead and start on the right-hand side. Okay, so we can go ahead. Just the family table, go ahead, and everyone follow after them, and we start on the right side. Thank you.